What's going on, 49er Faithful, 49er fam, 49er gang? This is your boy Niner Gang Podcast back in the building. So definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on all them post notifications so I can keep you up to date on any and everything San Francisco 49ers. With that being said, let's get right on into it, man. Y'all seen the title. Y'all know how I feel, okay? There's some question marks with the young man that has been running our organization. And I've been sitting here trying my best to find myself someone who could help me understand, because I don't, and I'm very frustrated. But I have found that person. I have found that man. Y'all all know who he is. It is literally nothing but Niners. That is the show. There is no question or guess or concern on who this is. It is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Jersey's own Mike Andrews in the building, everybody. What's good? What?
Let's go. That jersey got me hyped. What's going on, man? DJ, what's going on?
I appreciate you coming through and hanging out with me, man. Now, I want everybody to know and understand. There's going to be points probably where I'm going to make that Mike is going to be like, all right. But here's the situation. This is the trial of Mike Shanahan. Court is now in fucking session. And Mike, we cuss. We do whatever on my show. If you would like me not to cuss for like the first 5 or 10 minutes or whatever so you can monetize your stuff, I would do so. But
no, you good.
I just want everyone to understand I am the prosecution. Mike is the defense. So that's why I got this collared shirt on. You know what I'm saying? I want to look a little spiffy for you. You know, I might button the top of it, you know, just put on a tie.
This is going to be an open and shut case, yeah.
Hey, look, man, it is open and shut case. It is. And I'm telling you, the prosecution has a lot of ammo here, okay? So when I open these floodgates, man, I'm going to need Kyle to sit on the stand and answer for these egregious things that he has done to this franchise. So, hey, Mom, what's going on to everybody in the chat, man? Shout out to Manly Shavers, first in the building. DJ Malone, 49er Chanel, what's going on, Joe? 49er Media in the building. My mom is in the building. Throwback in the building. All love, man, all love. So, the reason that I called us here to court today is to speak about the tenure of Kyle Shanahan since he's been here. Now, I get it. We got some people that love Kyle. Kyle can't do no wrong. You know what I'm saying? AKA Jed York. You know, and a lot of fans. And the one thing that I will start off by saying is I did get a lot of flack for my opinions of Mr. Shanahan. And, you know, I've had people tell me go be a fan of another team, then you're not really a faithful, all of those things. Here's the difference between me and you. And I'm going to throw Mike in this boat with me. Mike, how many Super Bowls of ours did you watch? Because I only got to see 4. I was just born when the first one happened, right after it.
Do you mean watch live?
Yeah.
Just one. And I didn't even appreciate it. I didn't even put the last one. I didn't even appreciate it. So let me
see. I got to watch all 4. I appreciated it that much when I was there. So here's the thing. Are you older than me? I'm 42.
You are older than me. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You look good, sir. Young man. All right.
Hey,
all
right. Look, come on now, Mike. You know black don't crack.
I'm baby. You know, I'm sorry, man. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, for me, it's a situation of I was able to see 4. So in my mind, I'm conditioned for greatness. I'm conditioned for winning. And I'm conditioned for the consistency of that happening. Eddie DeBartolo did that to me. I don't know what y'all want me to do. Okay, that's how I've been conditioned. In today's society, there's so many things that are just acceptable that people don't look beyond it. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like our fan base now has just been conditioned to be okay with what Kyle is doing. They're okay with the consistency. No one cares if we win a Super Bowl. Everyone just all has this, oh, we'll get them next time attitude. And, well, you know, you got to have luck on your side, and you got to have this, and you got to have that. So, for me, that's my question. Why are we as fans now conditioned to accept him taking 2 L's in the Super Bowl? Like, why is that okay? Why are we conditioned to allow this man to have done so many egregious things that I'll lay out here and just be like, oh, all right, it's cool. When certain things that he's done will get normal people fired. So I'll give you the floor real quick, Mr. John Paul. Who are you going to replace him with? I'll wait. The Super Bowl was scripted, not his fault. KC has won 3 Super Bowls in the final 5 minutes. Clutch, nope, rigged. Here's the thing I'll say to you, John Paul. No, I do not have a replacement right now for Kyle Shanahan. My replacement would have been the guy that we never should let go of in the first place, and it would have been Jim Harbaugh. But that's a story for another day. Either way, my situation is, are we going to sit here year in and year out and watch this man continually fail us in the biggest game of the year and continually call it conspiracy, continually call it scripted, and not make that man take responsibility for his own actions? So I'll open the floor up for opening comments from Mike.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with having high standards for your favorite football team. In fact, I applaud it. And Jed York alluded to as much when he fired the man you mentioned in Jim Harbaugh. Okay. But Jed York just this offseason was asked a very direct question by Grant Cohn. You said that you don't hang NFC championship banners. What's happened to your standard? And Jed had a very good response, in my opinion, to that. He said, hey, look, I was young and experienced and immature, and I have grown since then. He said, and I can't say a Super Bowl appearance is a failure of a season. He said, because there was a time where it seemed like to the world, it's better to not make the playoffs than to lose a Super Bowl. And the truth is, that's not real. That's not real. He said, I felt that way. I don't feel that way anymore. Jed York is going through something where he's maturing and trying to go through the process the right way. This is going to be his first year as an owner. Let me be clear. He's been a CEO before. He was not the owner. This is going to be this upcoming season, this active season is his first season as the owner of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, with all that being said, no one wants to lose the Super Bowl. But the truth is there can only be one winner. There can only be one winner. Does that mean that your coach doesn't have what it takes? Does that mean that your coach isn't enough to get over the hump? Well, that remains to be seen. So today, as I defend Coach Kyle Shanahan, we're going to really dive into the numbers. We're going to really dive into the expectations, and we're really going to take a look at the standard that is now this current San Francisco 49ers. I give it back to you.
All right. Well, Mike had some very good opening statements. So let's just kind of dig into some basic numbers here, as this document is pulling up. So Kyle Shanahan currently, as a head coach, is 72-54. He has a postseason record of 8-4. He has 4 winning seasons, 3 losing seasons. His first 2 seasons were failures. And in his 3rd season, he went to the Super Bowl and lost due to Kyle getting comfortable against Patrick Mahomes, of all people. And he lost to him again in the Super Bowl after failing to make sure he understood the overtime rules properly, along with not informing the players of the OT rules in the Super Bowl properly as well. Now, some could say that the player should have educated themselves as well in his head coaching career. Okay. Kyle, you object? Go right ahead.
I object. The player's knowledge of the Super Bowl overtime rules should not be part of this, because the goal is to win, score on every drive possible, period.
Okay.
For coach, for players, anybody out there, for both teams, it shouldn't be, oh, well, the rule is that, no, score. So I just think that we shouldn't put that on Kyle, and the knowledge of the Super Bowl overtime rule should have been done in regulation. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to put that out there. Because had this Super Bowl happened, the same exact Super Bowl, had this happened just 7 years ago, the Niners would be Super Bowl champs because they scored first. Just want to make that point. So these are new rules that we are adjusting to. I just want to put that out there.
Nice. So, Mark, I'm going to address this and then I'll get right back to it. Failure in his first 2 seasons. What do you mean? What? I'm sorry. Did you not see 6-10? And I believe the next season was 2-14. We had a quarterback that we got that decided he tried to be a damn running back against who? The Kansas City
4-12. 4-12.
4-12. Sorry, 4-12. So we went 6-10 and 4-12. That's not a failure of a season? Sounds like one to me. That is not a winning record. That doesn't get you to the playoffs. So with that, there's your answer. But what I will say is, throughout Kyle's tenure, let's start with his first year. And I really want to, I'm really going to definitely try to see what kind of answer you give this. First year, Kyle screwed us. And the reason why, Kyle did not, and I repeat, did not decide to study any quarterbacks. Every head coach, when they come to a new franchise, if they do not already have a quarterback in place, they will do one of 2 things. They will find a veteran as a bridge until they find that quarterback. Or they will draft a quarterback. If I'm not mistaken, we had the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Kyle decides to go get Brian Hoyer. And Brian Hoyer would seem to be the veteran bridge guy that I speak of. But all that offseason and all throughout the season, there was talks of one Kirk Cousins, who's been robbing the NFL for years. Let's just keep it a buck. He's been robbing teams for years. He robbed the Skins. He robbed because they were the Skins when that happened. Okay, so anybody out there that's getting mad at that, I don't care. He robbed the Skins. He robbed the Vikings, and he about to rob Atlanta. He was so enamored with Kirk Cousins, he didn't study any quarterbacks. And in that draft, there were 2 possible generational talents. One was a bit of an unknown, but now, as you can see, generational talent. Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes. He studied neither because he was enamored with Kirk Cousins. So we had to stick with Brian Hoyer. And the quarterback that we drafted was CJ fucking Beathard. Now listen, there's no disrespect to CJ Beathard on a personal note, but you studied CJ Beathard, but did not study Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. Really? So that's why I say our first season, he screwed us. I'm not saying Kyle took over a fantastic team by any stretch of the imagination. He had to do what he had to do. He had to put together what he had to put together. He did not walk into a fantastic, situation as a head coach. But once again, I go back to what normal head coaches do. They will find their franchise guy in the draft, especially when you have the top 3 pick. And who the fuck did we go get? John Lynch decided to do his boy a favor. Hey, man, you went to Stanford? I went to Stanford. You're number 3 overall pick. While our scouts that year reported continuously, don't draft Solomon Thomas. Why? He doesn't fit the scheme. This isn't the guy. He did it anyway. So we have a top 3 pick and an opportunity to get a quarterback to lead us into the future. Kyle passes. And they do what they've done with the majority of our first-round picks, draft a defensive lineman, and none of these guys have worked out. So for me, I feel like that screws us. And, okay, first of all, I don't care what Kirk Cousins did, Mark. At the end of the day, he ain't winning no damn Super Bowl. That man barely got one playoff win. So I don't want that. But go right ahead, Mike. I would like a rebuttal to that because that really is confusing.
Okay, so I would like the record to reflect. We had the 2nd overall pick.
Oh,
we traded back so that way the Bears could draft Mitchell Trubisky. We acquired more picks, some valuable picks, and then we went on to get Solomon Thomas. Now, you talk about generational talent.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Patrick Mahomes was available. Patrick Mahomes, his first year as a rookie, didn't play. He played towards the end of it, but it wasn't his team. Second year, yes, he did go out there, had an MVP type season. But where do they finish that season?
Who? The Chiefs?
Yeah.
I do not know.
They didn't win a Super Bowl.
No,
and then
they had
following
at the helm.
Right. So now hear me out. Kyle Shanahan passed on a quarterback. Had he drafted Patrick Mahomes, it wasn't until Patrick Mahomes' 3rd season in the NFL that team made it to the Super Bowl. How do I know? Because they played against our San Francisco 49ers and they won. Well, what did Kyle Shanahan do in his 3rd season? That, you guessed it, made it to the Super Bowl. Now, albeit a loss due to the quarterback position, and let me be clear, but still in the 3rd season made it to the Super Bowl. I think that's a wash. I can't hold that against Kyle Shanahan. Now, we also don't know who was responsible for drafting said players, but I can't fault the guy for not coming into a situation and immediately tying himself to a rookie. We see what's happening right now with the New York Jets. Robert Saleh said, oh, no, this guy ain't it. We got to go get Aaron Rodgers, right? Not everyone is fortunate enough to get a quarterback in their first season of a head coach and then just go on to destiny. Too many times we've seen you got a quarterback now, that's your guy, you're tied to him. I'm not completely mad at Kyle for not going that route. I don't want to be tied to somebody who is an unknown. Let me take my hat at a rookie. Let me find a proven NFL guy. And at the time, the Jimmy Garoppolo pick, let's be honest, it looked pretty good. He came in at the end of that season. All 6 of those wins in our first year came from Jimmy Garoppolo. It looked like the right choice at that time.
5 came from Jimmy. 1 came from CJ.
Oh, I apologize. Good correction. So I can't necessarily fault him because when Jimmy came in, it looked like the right choice. In the next season, it looked like we were going to start on fire, and then Jimmy got hurt. No quarterback, no wins. That's not a Kyle Shanahan only type of rule. That is an NFL thing. That is just the way it goes. You don't have a starting quarterback in there, you're probably not going to win a lot of games. So then you go to the 3rd year, you got your quarterback, and he's healthy the whole time, and where do you end up? In the Super Bowl. I think it's a push. Now, could we have done more? Could we have looked for a better quarterback? We could have. And the rumors were immediately after the Super Bowl, guys, we need another quarterback because Jimmy is not it. So he identified a problem and he began to address said problem. I don't know what more you want him to do in that situation alone. Do you disagree?
I agree that he identified the problem. I don't agree that he addressed it. The reason I don't agree that he addressed it is because there was no fix. So if we're going to talk about the fix that Kyle had, we'll fast forward a little bit and we'll come back around to some of the other things. Fix was supposed to be Trey Lance. We traded all those picks. Kyle did something that gets most head coaches fired. We traded 3 first-round picks for a young man Kyle had no interest in at all and did not want. And anyone that tries to tell me different, I have plenty of facts to back up my shit. You only have speculation. I will openly state that. Here's the thing, and it was said in the chat right now. Kyle don't mess with black quarterbacks. Now, Callie made a comment that Josh Dobbs is black. You're right, Callie. Josh Dobbs is black. That don't mean he got to get on the field. We all know this to be true. And I've proven it one too many times, so I'm not going to go into that and jump on my soapbox of why I have to keep explaining to y'all that Kyle likes his quarterbacks Caucasian. It's that simple. That's what he likes. That's his preference. I never once ever in my life said that Kyle Shanahan is racist and he does not like black people. Never did I say that. And I will never state that because that is not who he is. I said the man got a preference at quarterback and it's black. I got a preference in women and it's Latin. Excuse the fuck out of me. That's what I like. You don't like it, kiss my ass. There was one time I didn't have a preference. I loved it all. Okay? Didn't matter what it was. Okay? She could have been from Mars. Then I was game. That was back in my younger years in high school now. But what I'm saying is, now here's the problem, Callie. You can't say that the quarterback couldn't play because he never got a damn chance. Let me remind everyone of the situation with Trey Lance. 3 first-round picks traded. After a couple of years, you basically just said, fuck it, Brock Purdy is better. We're going with that guy. And you told the owner blatantly to his face, well, that last pick in the draft, better than everybody else we got in the building. Most owners would have looked at you and said, I don't give a fuck how great he is. You better make that first pick work. Better figure it out. Don't give me that shit, Callie. Don't give me that shit. He didn't get a fucking chance. I don't want to hear it.
Can I interject?
By all means.
Let me take you back to the 2017 draft where we got Solomon Thomas. Mm-hmm. There was another first-round pick that same year. Mm-hmm. Linebacker by the name of Reuben Foster.
Failure.
Oh, hear me out, though. Hear me out. At the time, and at 31, was he not the best talent available by every scout's measures? You talked about the scouts. The scouts are the ones who said, don't get Solomon Thomas. Those same scouts are the ones that said, Reuben Foster's the best player available, and we need a linebacker. Patrick Willis, gone. Bowman on his way out.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so let's keep something in mind here. I don't want to fault my client, Kyle Shanahan, for trusting his team of scouts, for trusting the people in position to do exactly what they were doing. Hey, who's the best player? Same thing can be said for Trey Lance. You said so yourself. Kyle wasn't in on Trey. Mm-mm. Somebody was. A lot of people in the building obviously were. So Kyle said, "Hey, I'm gonna let y'all get him." Cool. I don't want a head coach in here that is overriding everything and everybody in the building. I think we can all agree, based off of things that you have said so far, Kyle is not that. Do you agree so far?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay. So you go out, and the reason I brought up Reuben Foster is this. They brought Reuben Foster in to be the leader of that defense. They wanted to give him the green dot on the helmet.
Yes. They wanted him to be Fred.
Yes.
Initially.
And the fact of the matter is, throughout the practices and throughout all of training camp and throughout games, it became apparent to everybody in the building he didn't have it up here. True or false?
True.
That's why they went out and got Fred. Fred became the guy. Okay. So when they go out and get Trey Lance, the same exact thing happened. Now, while I wish that we saw more of Trey Lance on the field and allowed him more than just 4 starts, there was stuff happening in practice. There was stuff happening behind the scenes. Now, maybe he wasn't, I don't know, but maybe he wasn't grasping the playbook. Maybe he was holding on to the ball just a little too long. Maybe he trusted his athleticism from where he came from in North Dakota, and it didn't transfer to the NFL. We saw too many times him leading with his shoulder on scrambles, not sliding the way he was supposed to. It was literally a topic of discussion the first time he slid.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable in the NFL. Don't believe me? Look at the track record. 4 starts, 3 injuries for Trey Lance. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. And you have to identify that as soon as possible and move on. Otherwise, you are going to sit back and lose more than you can win. And so what do? They put Trey Lance on the bench. They give it to Brock Purdy, NFC Championship, Super Bowl. I think that should count towards Kyle. I didn't want this guy. Y'all traded up. Y'all went and got him. He didn't have it. I identified the best option in the building, and we've made deep runs in the postseason ever since. How is that a negative against my guy?
The reason it's a negative is because of what you gave up to go get him. You don't waste draft picks like that on a player you have no aspirations of allowing to play. So here's my thing. This is the reason that I say he never got a fair shot. Because when they did put him in, they used him like a running back. Why are you giving him so many read option plays? Trey could do everything that Jimmy Garoppolo could do, and you could match Jimmy Garoppolo's deficiencies year in and year out, but you couldn't match this young man's deficiencies? When the man literally was the reason we went to the playoffs in his first year. If Trey doesn't win that, what a lot of people like to forget is, if Trey don't win that Houston game, we don't make the damn playoffs. So while a lot of people will have their things that they want to say about it, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I'll get on the soapbox and never get off. I know a lot of people don't like Lance. They say he was a bust. He was this, he was that, he was trash, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, that young man was drafted very high to do a job that he never got a fair shake at. When you put him in and you tell him he's the starter, why is Jimmy still here? Why would you have hold on? Why would you have that young man continually looking over his shoulder at a guy that had the starting job, that technically won? Why would you have that dude still here the whole time while you have Trey Lance and this is supposed to be his squad? When you want to give someone confidence, you make sure that they feel that they are the one driving that car and no one else can drive it. There's nobody behind them. That's like having your new girl and having your old girl right there hang out with y'all all the time. How is she going to feel? She's going to feel like her time is limited. Why? Because if she mess up, homegirl right here, she about to take it. So
I like
at the end of the day, I don't want to hear about trades or nothing, Mark. At the end of the day, you could have cut his punk ass.
I like the analogy.
You needed to do something because the thing is when you have players, you want to build confidence in them. And how do you build confidence? By making sure that you show that faith in them. The simplest thing that Jim Harbaugh did for Alex Smith to help turn his career around was 2 pats on the shoulder pads, 2 fists to the chest, and I believe in you, go get him. It was something so small that allowed that quarterback to say, at least, you know, my coach got faith in me. My coach got a lot of faith. So I'm you know what? I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get it, however I got to get it. But Kyle didn't have that faith in Trey Lance. All of the plays, everything that he did, all of the stuff that he ran, these things were brand new. When he played that Arizona, first of all, for anybody talking about the Arizona game, I was at the Arizona game. That was like a college-style offense. It looked like Kyle didn't know what the fuck he was doing. For all the years that he coached and all of the time that he spent as an offensive coordinator and in the league in general, and to have your daddy be Mike Shanahan, you looked like you had no clue what the fuck you were doing, and I don't know what offense you were running. And then that night you had the nerve to not dress Jawan Jennings, but dress who was that worthless fuck we had? I can't remember. He was supposed to be a returner. We dressed this dumbass.
Pettis? You talking about Pettis?
No, not Pettis. It was the other dude. He had dreads. He was supposed to be a returner for us while we had Lance. The first year we drafted him. I can't remember his name. But you dressed that guy over Jawan Jennings, knowing that Jennings and Trey have chemistry, because at that time, Jennings and Trey had been working together the whole damn time. Why? Because they were both in the second team. So why on earth would you not give him, a weapon that he's familiar with, but then put him out there with somebody he's not?
Because starters are starters. You don't bench.
That the wide receiver he put in over Jawan Jennings, I can't remember his name for the life of me. But
so you're talking about a fourth wide receiver option.
Yeah, he's like a third, fourth guy.
Okay, so then that's not now.
No, I'm not talking about Trent Sherfield, Callie. It's another dude. It's not Richie James either. Him. Damn it! What was his fucking name?
Well, why you think about the name? Why you think about the name? I want to point out a couple of things here. You use the analogy of your why would you have a new girl and your old girl still hanging around, right? Mm-hmm. Dion, you're a licensed driver, is that correct?
Yes.
When's the last time you got into a car accident?
Never.
You got car insurance?
Yes.
Why?
In case of an accident.
So we get Jimmy Garoppolo. His first year as a starter, he's out week 2. We trade up. We draft Trey Lance. Jimmy Garoppolo is still under contract and coming off an injury. So those injury guarantees are still there. You can't just cut him, and nobody wanted to trade for him. You keep Jimmy around for the same reason you have car insurance, just in case. That's why. So from the moment they got Trey Lance, I went on my platform and said, hey, we got the best quarterback room in the league right now. We got a guy who we know can at least get us to a Super Bowl, and we have this young, physically talented prospect. Now, you also said something about Trey Lance can do everything that Jimmy Garoppolo could do. That's not true. Jimmy Garoppolo was the check down king. Lance struggled with the check downs. Lance shined in the intermediate and deep passes, not that short stuff. That's not what he was. His arm was too big for that. It was too raw. The timing routes he struggled with. I don't think it's a coincidence that when they got Jimmy here, they worked with his strengths. They implemented some of the things that they saw from New England. Then they go out and get Brock Purdy, and they implement things that he did well coming from, what was it, Iowa? Right? They go out there and implement some of that.
Iowa State.
And so Iowa State, I apologize. Iowa State, good correction. And so when you see Trey Lance, you said yourself in your argument, it looked like college play calls. Well, guess why? Because they were doing things that Lance was comfortable with. That's why it looked the way that it did. You want to build a guy's confidence, don't put me in someone else's system. This is me. You got to placate to me and my strengths. And that's why it happened. Remember that bomb down the right sideline to Deebo Samuel? Everyone's like, oh, man, we got somebody. That was his forte. That was his strength. That's what he was good at, right? But there's a whole lot of other plays that happen between the big throws, and that's where Lance struggled. I don't think it's a coincidence that Kyle went out and got Nick Mullins, played to his strengths, designed offenses around Nick Mullins' strengths, the quick release. I don't think it's a coincidence that he used C.J. Beathard. C.J. Beathard probably ran more than Trey Lance. Just it looked different because it was spread out throughout games. He scrambled a lot, right? Because that's what he did well. That's what C.J. Beathard did well. And everything in between. Kyle has never looked at a quarterback and said, all right, I'm just going to put you in this offense and you got to do it. No, he tries to build around the guy that's under center week in and week out. So what you saw from him putting Trey Lance out there was what he sincerely believed was the team's best chance. I don't believe that he just changed it up because Trey Lance is black. I don't. I'm not
going to say that he changed it up because he was black. I just said Kyle don't like black quarterbacks in general. Okay. And people, if you want to, I'll give you the short version of it. Donovan McNabb, Robert Griffin III, Trey Lance. He does not care for them. And please don't, if anybody in this chat mentions Josh fucking Johnson, I'm going to boot you from the damn chat.
Donovan McNabb was at the end of his career.
Exactly.
And RG3 was injured.
Nope. RG3 was not Kyle. Listen to me. Now I have to prove you wrong here. RG3 was not Kyle or Mike's pick.
We all know that.
And Snyder's pick.
We know that.
But listen
and
to me.
Kyle and Mike wanted Kirk Cousins.
Exactly. So what did they do? They wrapped right back around and still drafted Kirk. This is what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, this tells you I don't want this dude. I don't like him. It was rumored that Kyle told Donovan McNabb, hey, man, you might want to go work on your footwork. Donovan McNabb is a vet who's been in the playoffs and been to a Super Bowl by now. You about to tell this nigga to work on his footwork?
Yes, because if it's not up to par, stop it. Any quarterback coach will tell you that it starts with the feet and the hips. From your throwing platform is everything. Yes, you need to work on your footwork. McNabb looked crazy out there sometimes. He looked crazy out there. Even with Andy Reid, he looked crazy at times. So there's nothing wrong with him trying to get him to improve on who he is. And let me say this too, right? And this is on any quarterback in the NFL. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can find any tape of Joe Montana, find any tape of Steve Young, Jeff Garcia. You are always looking over your shoulder. And if you can't handle that pressure, this ain't the position for you. You are literally playing in the most scrutinized position of all professional sports. You win, and you could have 6 interceptions. But if your team wins, they're going to credit you for that win. You can go out there and throw 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, and your defense just can't stop anybody. They're going to blame you for that loss.
Yeah.
So if you can't look over your shoulder, you can't handle the pressure. Bro, if you didn't have confidence that we believed in you or that we wanted you, when we drafted you while Jimmy was still on the roster, there's nothing else I can do to give you confidence. You got to put your nose in the books, study, and get better in this team system. That's what you got to do. And if you can't handle that, this ain't the position for you, bro. If you worried about, oh, well, why didn't y'all trade him? Why didn't y'all trade? Because there's no need to trade him. And you're right. If we don't win that game in Houston, the Niners don't get that playoff spot. They don't make that playoff push. However, there was somebody else in that team that won a lot of games that year, and it wasn't Trey Lance. It wasn't Trey. It was that insurance policy. It was that insurance policy that held us over. You total your car, you're gonna need that check for $40,000, so you can go out and get something else. Jimmy Garoppolo was the most expensive insurance policy in the league at the time, and it worked out in favor of the Niners. We didn't win the Super Bowl, but it worked out. We got the postseason, NFC Championship, Super Bowl. It worked out in favor of the 49ers. That's all I'm saying. We can't fault them for, hey, we got you here, and now you want me to fire you can't be the only quarterback in the quarterback room. And right now, I don't like the way the quarterback room is built. Right now, we got a Mr. Irrelevant, we got a Brandon Allen, and a guy with no eyebrows in Joshua Dobbs. We have the black powder as our third or backup quarterback.
Yeah,
right
pretty
now.
much. That's what he looks like.
I don't like the quarterback room.
No.
If something were to happen to Purdy, never mind, I ain't even gonna get on Purdy because that's not what this is about. I'm not gonna do that. However, I will say that the Niners should be still looking to improve the depth in that quarterback room just in case. Just in case. Josh Johnson wasn't it. He was never it. He's a career journeyman. Him and what they call my man Clipboard Jesus, Charlie Whitehead, what was his name? The guy was a backup, Whitehurst, a backup forever in the NFL. Him and Josh Johnson competed to see who could play for the most teams in the NFL as a backup quarterback. And Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic, that's what they called him, right? Just career backups come in here from time to time, play a game or two.
They have like a little moment and then they disappear.
Right. That's it. The quarterback room was weak from the moment we got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. Let
me explain something to you, Callie. Dobbs ain't winning shit around this bitch. Dobbs is not. No. I ain't got no faith. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 games, but anything beyond that, I do not have faith in Joshua Dobbs. Okay, he is too. I ain't seen enough. Now listen to me. When I state what I'm stating, I'm not stating that I think the Trey Lance was great. I honestly just don't think he had a fair shake. I feel like when he got injured in that second game, it was like, yo, I understand it's a read option play. At the end of the day, for me, from my standpoint, from my point of view, I don't think that Kyle cares for African-American quarterbacks. You can have your opinion. I'm going to have mine. We're going to agree to disagree on that, strictly based on the fact that y'all feel y'all way, I feel mine. At the end of the day, Donovan McNabb, RG3, Trey Lance, all three of these dudes, Kyle wasn't really fucking with none of them. And you just have to deal with that. Like, at the end of the day, you wasted 3 first-round picks on a quarterback and then traded this nigga for what, a 4th or a 5th? And our owner's okay with this? Bro, you get fired in other places for shit like this.
Who should have been fired? Kyle?
I've seen plenty of head coaches that get fired for less. And this dude traded 3 first-round picks and then just basically looked at the kid and was like, well, didn't work out. Last guy's probably playing you, so you can get the fuck on. And our owner was just like, that's right, Kyle. You tell him. That to me is bullshit. Wait.
Oh, okay.
I don't care what nobody says.
I see what's happening here. Because you can't, and on one side of your mouth, say Kyle didn't want Lance, and then on the other side say he should have been fired for moving on from Lance. You got to pick a side. So if Kyle didn't want Lance and he sees the better option and tells the owner, hey, we're going to run Lance out there, but that guy that we got in Mr. Irrelevant, he looks like he's going to be okay. You got to pick a side. So if he didn't want Lance and Lance wasn't good enough or got injured or wasn't given enough opportunity because of the injuries, you can't say that it's Kyle's fault. Kyle didn't want him. So if anybody were to be fired in that situation, it should be the crew of people that said, hey, we want Lance. The GM, Adam Peter, whoever it was that went out and did the work on Trey Lance and tried to sell him to Kyle, because let's be honest, they made that trade before they knew who they were going to go and get.
Yeah, true.
Let's be honest.
True. Yeah.
They made that trade.
Who they were going to get at the time.
There was no clue. And the reason why they were even willing to make that trade, speculation is that was the package that they were going to give up to acquire who they should have got in 2011 in Deshaun Watson. They heard that Watson was available that same offseason. They had the package put together, but Cleveland came in and said, nah, we're going to do more, and we're going to offer the fully guaranteed contract. So
they and it did it.
Right. So if that's the case, one, they were looking for it. Now they said, well, if we were willing to give up all of this stuff, why don't we give it all up still? And now we move up to number 3 and see who's available. I think that's the right thing to do. Now, do I like trading up and not having a prospect in mind? Absolutely not. But if you were willing to part ways with those picks anyway, that means that you had a plan for what you were going to do without those picks. Let's move up and get the best available guy, because we know for a fact Jimmy's not it. I don't fault them for shooting for the stars still. If they had settled on Mac Jones or whoever, I don't know. But if they had settled on somebody else, then so be it. That would have been what happened. But they ended up going with Trey Lance. They identified that Lance wasn't it, and they moved on. Fire somebody? Cool. Buy John Lynch. Buy Adam Peters. Buy North Dakota area scout. Whoever it was that did it, that's who should have been fired. But you can't fire the head coach who had a contingency plan in place in case that 3rd overall pick didn't work. That's not the person to fire in that scenario.
Okay. That's a good argument. I'll give you that much. So with that being said, we'll move forward. Kyle Shanahan, don't you ever in your life draft another running back. Stop wasting our time and yours. Don't ever draft another running back a day in your life. You do better with UDFAs or people you trade for. You do not do well with drafted running backs. Let me bring up the evidence. And Mike has no rebuttal for this shit. I know he don't, because he knows the truth of the fucking situation. Okay? So let's go ahead and let me find it in my notes. All right. During the tenure of Kyle, he has drafted several running backs, all of whom have failed in the league. Let's just run down the list. Joe Williams, a guy who quit on his team in college and quit on us in the NFL. Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, and most recently, TDP. Now, Mitchell had one good year, was still injury prone for that year, and has been for the rest of his career. So, Kyle, anybody that's doing mock drafts, do not put a running back in there. They will fail. They will not see the field. I have told y'all this time and time again. He wanted Joe Williams. And we told him, Joe quit on this team in college. Why would we draft this guy? He don't want to play football. Kyle goes, nah, that's my man. Okay, Kyle, you had your nice little DMX impression, but chill the fuck out. Joe Williams was a failure. And we can all admit that Elijah Mitchell, when healthy, is a great back. Newsflash, he's never healthy. And now that Christian McCaffrey is here, what would be the need to draft a running back? Kyle doesn't know how to get his head out of Christian McCaffrey's ass because that's the only person he wants on the field. Now, listen to me, people. I understand that Christian McCaffrey is dynamic. I know everything that he does, what he means to this team, how great he is. I am not discounting Christian McCaffrey in any way, shape, or form. I love him. Appreciate him. I want him to stay. But I got to tell you, Elijah Mitchell was actually healthy in the Super Bowl. We didn't see this nigga till the end. And when we did, he had like 6-7 yard runs. Why? Why on God's green earth do you finally have a guy healthy that you can rotate and you refuse to do it? He is so enamored with CMC. I remember he called a timeout and then a presser actually said he called a timeout because he saw Christian wasn't on the field. If I'm not mistaken, this past offseason, before the season started, Kyle was saying we're teaching all of them to do what Christian does, so when Christian has to be rested, we don't skip a beat. Where the fuck was that shit all season? Because I sure didn't see it. Seemed like Christian just stayed on the field. Here's my thing about that. You have viable options outside of your starter. It's not like these dudes are trash. You could have put them on the field. You could have ran the ball down Kansas City's throat with 3 different backs. Mason's nothing to scoff at, people. If I'm in a goal line situation, I love CMC, but I only want CMC in there if he's going over the top. If I need a banger, I'm going to Jordan. That's what he does. That's who he is. That's okay. But you get one-sided and you get like a deer in headlights, as if you don't know that other people exist. Don't do that to your star running back. Don't do that to your team. Do it to the defense. All these players know all of these plays. I would have been rotating them motherfuckers in and out left and right. You wouldn't know what was coming at you. It would have been earth, wind, and fucking fire. And you could slow down that defense. You take all that time off the clock. But Kyle, never draft a running back again in your life. I don't even want to see it. What say you to that?
I can't argue against that. And it was made vehemently clear that Joe Williams was a Kyle Shanahan pick. Why? I don't know. In fact, it came out that John Lynch didn't even have him on his board. He took him off when he found out he quit on his
team.
And they said that Kyle did go out and say, this is my guy. Like, I want this guy. Now, I can't argue against that. I won't try to argue against that. What I will try to argue against is rotating Christian McCaffrey. What? All that we gave up to get this guy, his salary, and his production. I want y'all to know something. Brock Purdy was an MVP candidate. Legit. He got votes. You know who got more votes than him on this same team? Who finished 3rd in votes? Christian McCaffrey. I'm not rotating an MVP candidate. Period. If
Why?
he's tired, you tap his helmet. Cool. Come on out. If he's tired, come on out. If he's telling me I'm not tired, I'm good. Go be that MVP candidate. Go
Why
be that.
wouldn't you rotate your guys? Why wouldn't you make a defense confused on what's coming at them? They know what Christian brings. They know
confused.
that. Why not confuse them with different players? They don't know what Elijah brings. They don't know what Jordan brings. You know why? Because they don't ever see their ass on the fucking field. Why not mix that up? You confuse the defense. All that. The only thing I will never give Kyle is genius. I don't get that offensive genius tag to Kyle. I've seen him do too much dumb shit for me to think that he's a genius. I think he's a very smart head coach and a very smart offensive coordinator. Do I think there needs to be someone every now and then to tell him, no, don't do that, stop, to help him get out of his own head? Yes, I would love that, because there are too many times where the man gets into his own head and he does not know how to get out of there. He backs himself into his own fucking corner and then wonders how the fuck he got there. That's all I'm saying. That's why I was saying that. Oh, no, I like white running backs, okay? I don't give a fuck. Y'all don't care about color when it comes to football. You can be orange, red, green, purple, brown, yellow. I don't give a fuck. If you can play football, you can play football, baby. I don't care, okay? And Christian McCaffrey is probably literally the greatest white running back ever. Like, facts. I don't think there's another one that was better. Honestly, if you think about it, look in the annals of history, name a running back that was better than Christian McCaffrey that was Caucasian. I don't know too many. I think the only other running back I can think of in the time that I watched football that was anywhere near worth anything that was white, and he was technically a fullback, was Mike Allstott. And that was just because he was trucking motherfuckers left and right. But honestly, if you look at the game, it's simple. You got to do it.
You have a top 10 running back all time, and y'all want to rotate him with somebody who can't catch out the backfield. Because part of what makes Christian McCaffrey so dynamic.
I'm just saying, just let them do the running plays. Let them do some of the running play. If you're running up the gut, why don't you use Mitchell or Mason? Let them run. Let them have those hits. Why don't you keep him?
You're contradicting yourself.
Huh?
Now you're contradicting yourself. You said put them in there to catch them off guard. If they're in there to only do the running plays, it's no secret then. So now you're showing your hand. Oh, here comes Elijah Mitchell. Stack the box. Here comes Mason. Stack the box. That's the complete opposite of what you just said in your
play
argument.
Action off that.
But
if they keep thinking that's coming, boom. Now go ahead and hit you with play action. Yeah, you think Elijah's got the ball. No, he don't. Now I'm throwing the ball.
What play action is going to work more? With Christian McCaffrey or any other running back on the 49ers roster? Stop it. You don't
you got me on that one. You got me.
You don't like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I do think that we should have run the ball more in the Super Bowl, especially in that second half, especially in that fourth quarter. The two most important drives, we went 3 and out, and Christian McCaffrey didn't get a touch. I'm with you on run the ball more. Yeah. He was on the field. Why aren't you using him? They couldn't stop him. Other than that opening drive when he fumbled, he was unstoppable. And even that drive, he looked really, really good. But I'm not going to sit here and try to say Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason and TB. I'm not going to do all that. Now, I will say that Kyle should probably not have his pick of running backs. It's probably best to have a crop of guys here and then analyze what you see and go off of that. I don't think that maybe he analyzes the running back position the best way. I will give you that. I will give you that.
So I'll go back because we're going to go back to the first Super Bowl.
Okay. 2019.
Here's the argument against Kyle Shanahan for this. In that playoff year of 2019, what did Patrick Mahomes consistently do? Kept getting his ass handed to him in the first half. Every playoff game. Teams thought they had him. You know what he found a way to do? Turn it around. Our head coach said this out of his own mouth. I'm not making this up. You don't believe me? Go look it up. Kyle, why did you not try to go for it before the first half ended? What happened? We were comfortable with our lead. You were comfortable against Patrick Mahomes, who other teams throughout the whole goddamn playoffs got comfortable against just like you did and wound up taking an L. And what happens to you, Mr. Shanahan? You wind up taking an L. On top of that, we came off the NFC Championship game where Raheem Mostert ran all over the goddamn Packers. He single-handedly won that game by his fucking self. But we start to put the ball in the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo in the biggest game of the fucking year? What kind of shit is this? So somebody please explain to me how you fail against the biggest game of your life. You were fortunate to make it within your first 4 years. A lot of head coaches can't say that. But why would you get that comfortable against a guy who had been getting his ass whooped the whole playoffs and finding a way to win? You don't get comfortable against a guy like that. You fight tooth and nail for every point you can get, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. Either point. But explain to me why this is not Kyle Shanahan's fault for getting comfortable.
Oh, damn. This is one thing I was hoping you didn't bring up.
Mm-hmm.
To this day,
that Mr. Andrews did say he did not want me to bring this up.
yeah. Let the court know.
Yeah.
To this day, and nothing but Niners have been around since 2017, since the draft. That was when we started. Our anniversary just passed recently. Mm-hmm. To this day, our most successful live stream was at halftime of that Super Bowl. Over 28,000 live viewers. Okay.
Hey, if I had a soundboard, I would have gave you the clapping hands and everything, man. Mike, that is an amazing feat, my brother. Congratulations.
Now, here's why I wish you didn't bring it up.
Off.
I sure did. I was the level of festivity that I was at with Kyle Shanahan in that halftime show. It doesn't exist. You had 2 timeouts when you got that possession. You run the ball, no timeout. Run the ball, no timeout. You take a shot where Kittle is successful, and then you call a timeout. But by then, it was damn near no time left on the clock. There was no time left. And this is against a team that went for it not once, but twice on 4th down in the first half of the Super Bowl.
If I may tell you, did we not see them cut to John Lynch in the booth doing this? Just gonna throw that out there.
Yes. And so if that didn't tell you everything you needed to know in that moment, the Chiefs are not going to lay down. They're not. They have nothing else to lose. 4th downs, hey, we going for it. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to call you want to go to the locker room with timeouts? What? You just going to concede because you had a 3-point lead or something like that? It was 10. I don't care. They were down 20-something against the Texans that same postseason. I don't care. I went in there. I went on that show, and oh my God, I never yelled so much. I was outside in the rain smoking a cigar. To me, that Super Bowl was over in that moment. To me, I felt like we conceded. I felt like we folded. We said, oh man, nope, it's not enough. Now, with that said, you did say, why would you put the ball in the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo in the biggest game, in the biggest moment?
Yeah.
I will say this, and you could take it for what it's worth. This is the only response that I have. If Jimmy didn't overthrow him, who knows what could have happened? He had Sanders. Sanders had his guy beat. The kill shot was dialed up. I don't know if I can fault the coach the offensive coordinator, the play caller. I don't know if I can fault him for the lack of execution by the players. The play was right there. We all saw it. We all saw it.
Yeah.
And it didn't fall. I don't know. Again, identify the problem. Hey, this offense is doing this well. That defense is susceptible to this. Let's attack this on this play. He fired the kill shot, but Jimmy just didn't make it. He didn't make the throw. Now, that doesn't change what happened in that first half. It doesn't change the way we went into halftime at all. That is definitely the fault of my client. We take that on the chin here. But he put them in position to make plays and to score more points, but the team just could not execute.
Okay. Now, let's fast forward to a couple months ago, something we'd like to forget. Don't know why on God's green earth you went away from the run. Don't know why on God's green earth. A lot of y'all in this chat and a lot of y'all watching, y'all gonna blame my brother Steve Wilkes. Let me explain something to you people. If there's one thing Steve Wilkes didn't do, it was fail in the Super Bowl. He did not. Your defense gave you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. They did their fucking job. Your offense could not execute. You went away from the run. You made Brock Purdy pass happy. If there's one thing that I've learned about Kyle, when his quarterbacks throw for at least 20 to 25 times, majority of the time, they win. You know why? Because we're heavier on the run. You know why? Because we run a stretch zone scheme. That's the premise of the offense. Use the run, set up the pass. This is what we do. Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying I don't like Brock Purdy because I love Brock Purdy. I appreciate what he has done for this franchise. Thank you so much for blessing us with Brock Purdy, God. We really appreciate you. I love the fact that he's an evangelist when he gets up there. He doesn't denounce God like a lot of people. He actually says, like, without God, nothing is possible. I can appreciate that about Brock. Brock dispelled a lot of rumors. A lot of y'all out there said Brock can't throw the ball deep. Shut you up on that one, did he? A lot of y'all said Brock couldn't do a lot of shit that he did. He shut up a lot of people. And a lot of people in the media still don't want to get him man his fucking credit, which to me is still, I don't get that. I don't think I ever will.
They said he couldn't run. They said he couldn't scramble. Please. The knocks on Brock Purdy are ridiculous. But for me, what I'm saying is, a lot of people are saying Steve Wilkes. Maybe I was watching a different Super Bowl than other people. But what I saw was a defense that gave our offense every opportunity to do what they did. And the offense wasn't able to make it work. Now, the offensive play caller has to take responsibility. He's the one calling the plays. On top of that, the only thing I will say that I feel was very, very rigged in that Super Bowl was the fact that these motherfuckers were flagged the most in the league for holding on their offensive line. Yet in this Super Bowl, they didn't get one flag for holding? I don't know. That's suspect to me. But then again, we got the same punk-ass refs to come in here and fuck us like they did before. Key is not to leave it in the refs' hands. The key is to be better. I don't want to hear shit about, oh, it just didn't bounce our way, and we need luck, and we need this, and we need that. At the end of the day, we needed our players to go out there and execute on offense, and they did not. And because they did not, now we are literally 0-3 in our last Super Bowls. Kyle's responsible for 2. Jim Harbaugh is responsible for the other L. I don't know if he can win the big one. I don't know if Kyle is the guy to get us over the hump.
Now, I know everyone will continually bombard me with who are you going to replace him with. But at the end of the day, 2 failures against the same dude, I don't want to go back to the Super Bowl again against Kansas City Chiefs. Because I'm going to be an asshole and just bet on the Chiefs. Why not? They keep kicking our ass and Kyle keeps seeming to fail. So it's not, I don't know if it's a third time's a charm thing. I don't know what's going on with him, but your client continually is failing in the big game. Twice as the head coach, once as an offensive coordinator. What do you have to defend him here?
I will give you this. If you woke up the day of the Super Bowl and said, Mike, at the end of regulation in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs are only going to have 19 points, I would have bet 4 mortgages on the 49ers to win that game. The 49ers were a team that averaged 28.9 points a game. Game. And you're going to tell me that we're going to hold the Chiefs to 19 in regulation?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So there's no way we should be blaming Steve Wilks for anything. Anything. They did their job. Steve Wilks wasn't responsible for the fumble inside the red zone on the opening drive.
Yeah.
He had nothing to do with that. That was on the offensive side of the ball. Now, here's my rebuttal. The Chiefs had the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL. Only 17 points per game allowed. This was not the best version of the Chiefs that we saw offensively. Not even close.
No.
They were a shell of themselves.
Nowhere.
In fact, a lot of people were writing the Chiefs off this very year because their offense just could not seem to get it going.
Dropped the most balls in NFL history. Pause.
Come on. Yeah. But that defense was real. That was a real deal defense. And so when you look at your, let's just call it 29 for simplicity purposes. When you look at your 29 points a game on average, well, you scored 40 against the Cowboys bum defense.
Mm-hmm.
You scored 40 against the Eagles bum defense,
mm-hmm.
right? That's going to inflate these numbers. What happens when you go up against a number 2 defense? It's going to come down a little bit, but to come down that much,
yeah.
All we needed was 3 touchdowns in regulation. And we Super Bowl champs. We're Super Bowl champs with just 3 touchdowns in regulation. If nothing else changes, just play that whole game out, and you get in the end zone instead of settling for a field goal. It was right there. It was right there. Now, does that go back to execution? Kyle didn't make CMC fumble that ball.
Uh-huh.
He didn't. And it was a good play until it wasn't. It was a good play until it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know where we actually separate the coach from the players in this situation, because there was a lot of positive things, a lot of positive plays that happened in that Super Bowl. But we're not going to sit here and say, well, Kyle did that. The players executed it. At the very end, where we settled for a field goal in overtime, you had not 1, but 2 wide open targets in or near the end zone. Brandon Ayuk was one of them, right in the middle, right in the eyesight of the quarterback who was in trouble. But you had the best defensive player on the number 2 ranked defense unblocked. Is that Chris Forrester? Is that Kyle Shanahan? Or is that just Spencer Burford for blocking the wrong guy and going the wrong way?
I was 1,000% Spencer Burford. I watched that play. He acted like Chris Jones didn't exist. I don't understand how the fuck that happened. But here's the reason that I give Kyle the blame, because he is the head coach. He will take the blame. There are 2 people in a franchise for the NFL that will always take the blame for wins and losses: head coach, quarterback.
And quarterback.
Those 2 will always get that. It's always them. You'll always see that. So when we shitted on Jimmy because Jimmy was out there looking like hot shit on the stick, Kyle got it as well.
Right. Yeah.
My fear. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you got it. Go ahead.
My biggest fear with Kyle Shanahan is he's going to become Andy Reid in Philly. The only difference is that Kyle has been able to make it to 2 Super Bowls while Andy only made it to 1. I know a lot of people are happy with the fact that we are relevant. I know they're happy that we're in the NFC Championship game and we contend year in and year out. I'm happy with that to an extent. And the reason I say to an extent is because I would like us to win a fucking Super Bowl. Some of y'all in this chat ain't even seen us win one. You only know the history. You've never even got a chance to celebrate that. I would love for you guys to have that. And my fear is Kyle is slowly becoming Andy in Philly. And you know what happened to Andy? After a while, Jeffrey said, look, man, I appreciate what you done, bro, but this shit ain't working. It's been too long. You got to go. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, watch if we let him go, he's going to go somewhere else and win the Super Bowl. I don't know that to be true. Andy didn't win one right when he left Philly. Still took him some time. So my question to you is, because I feel like at this point you got to let him go. If Kyle gets to another Super Bowl and takes another L, what do you do? Now, I put a poll up on Twitter, and there was an overwhelming response, I believe. Let me actually look it up real quick. I'm going to take a look at it through my phone because it's a little bit faster. Because I'm running StreamYard, and StreamYard to eat up some fucking bandwidth, boy. Love it, but it'll eat it up, though. All right, where we go?
While Dion is pulling that,
yeah.
I too have some concerns about getting over the hump, you know, and it sometimes it takes for a fresh start somewhere for both, right? The Eagles got their Super Bowl without Andy Reid, and Andy Reid got his Super Bowl without the Eagles. I think what the Eagles were hanging their hats on at the time was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 4 consecutive NFC Championship appearances. I believe that's what it was.
Yep.
And then you got the year when they got T.O. I think.
And that's when they made the Super Bowl.
Right.
He played on a broken leg, didn't
he? He came back from a broken leg and went out there and tore it up too. Completely tore it up. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. It would be ill for me to speak on the future because I don't know what it holds. For all we know, Kyle might never make another Super Bowl. For all we know, he could win the next 3 out of 4, like Andy Reid just did. I don't know how it's going to come out. I don't know how it's going to play out. But there needs to be a system of checks and balances. I will give you that. I do think that there has to be someone in Kyle's ear that can say, hey, take the emotion and the pride out of what you're doing right now and just look at the play clock, look at your timeouts, and play for points every opportunity you get. I do think that there needs to be some checks and balances there.
So I did get a chance to pull that up. I let that poll run for, I think, about 2 or 3 days. 214 votes. 56% of people said let him stay. 44% of people said fire him. My thing is, for me, Kyle has sucked a lot of my happiness out of me when it comes to this team. This year, there are a lot of people, we going to the Super Bowl, we going to the Super Bowl. Don't do that. We ain't no different than Cowboy fans when we do that. Because every year they go to the fucking Super Bowl, and every year they wind up sitting on the fucking couch. So I don't want to be that person. I will guarantee playoffs. That much I will. Playoffs? Yeah, no doubt. From there, I don't know. Can't give you that. Kyle has drafted, and I'm not counting this past draft. I'm just counting up to right before it. Kyle and John Lynch have drafted 50 players from 2017 up to 2022. We have 15 starters out of those 50. That's 30%. Which is actually not bad because we all know the draft is a crapshoot. Here's the problem. I got to put Kyle and John on trial for this one. Why do we have a love for injury-prone players? Why do we have a love for redshirting players? This doesn't make sense. Lots of guys have come on this team that have been failures. And we just keep them. We let them stay. Jalen Hurd, 3 years. Broke back Hurd. Nothing. Jerick McKinnon, the only time your ass showed up was in the COVID year. And we all love to forget that year, which when we had the most. The other thing, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, since you've been here, we've been the most injured team in the fucking league. Or at a bare minimum in the top 5. I understand this is football and injuries happen, people. I don't know they happen that fucking often. Suspect moves in the draft. Why would you trade DeForest Buckner and draft Javon Kinlaw, a guy with chronic knee issues, who just found out how to play football now as a rotational piece and who's now with the Jets? And if he's a rotational piece there, I expect him to do very well. Because he didn't do too bad this year. Did I? Wasn't nothing to fall out over, but he did all right. So, for me, 50 players, 15 of them starters, a couple of guys, some ragtag dudes that would kind of come in and come out. 30%, not bad. Not bad at all. But could have done better had he not wasted some picks. I don't know what Kalia Davis is going to do, but he sure as fuck didn't do shit for us since we drafted him. Everyone knows right now that Eric Armstead felt disrespected by us offering him $6 million. Well, maybe if you played more than 6 snaps, we would have gave you more money. Sorry, we gave you a lot of money. You didn't produce. You got to go. No disrespect to Eric Armstead. He is a fantastic human. That man has done so much for the city of Sacramento, where he's from. That man, he loves kids. He gives back to his community. I honestly think he's getting gypped out of Walter Payton Man of the year in and year out. I need y'all to give him his fucking due. Stop playing with Eric Armstead when it comes to that award. He deserves that shit. He deserves 4 of them. He does too much. But on the field, you leave it to me. You could have ponied up the money to pay DeForest Buckner and let Eric Armstead walk, and you'd have been fine. You know why? Because DeForest Buckner, with not a single stitch of help around him, gave us 12 fucking sacks in a year. On his own. No help. But we opted for the dude who took the hometown discount a little bit. And I'm sorry, Jacksonville. You wasted your money. That's a lot of money. I do not think he's going to give you anywhere near what that contract is worth as far as his on-the-field stuff. Now, is he going to do a lot for the city of Duval? I do believe so. Those kids out there are going to love him. He is a gentle giant. But as far as on the field, I don't know. So there's some questionable things about the draft, with drafting a few injury-prone players, one of the redshirt people. What say you to that, Mike? It's a little weird.
I think when you look at the draft as a whole, you step back and look at it. You look at the Trey Lance situation. What could we have done with those 3 first-round picks? What players could we have acquired? Now, albeit they would have been towards the end of the first round, but that's where we are now. They're still first-round picks. You still have 5th-year options, right? If you like redshirting guys, get a guy in here that you can get a 5th-year option on. You want more time with him, right? Yeah. I think that Niner fans pay a lot more attention to what Niners draft as opposed to other teams, because it turns out all teams draft injured players. All teams get guys that they liked but got injured during combine or got injured during a team workout and things like that, or got injured in their final season before declaring for the draft, and they get them and hope to stash them. In fact, you mentioned what's going on over there in Duval County, right? Trent Baalke is known. He's notorious.
Yeah.
You got a busted ACL. Hey, come on down. Right? That was Trent Baalke's thing.
Great, right? With the voice too. Great with the voice. Love it.
That's it's not just, we noticed it when Trent was here, but that hasn't changed, because those guys say you're a first round talent, but I could probably get you in the third or fourth. And if that injury is too much, hey, listen, one of my favorite draft picks the Niners ever made, never touched the field. Marcus Lattimore. Never touched the field for the 49ers. I remember where I was when I was in a Walmart, and my uncle called me and said, y'all just got Marcus Lattimore. I was like, what? Bad reception, and they're screaming, are you serious? Hello? Don't break up. Hello? Can you hear me? Hype. I was hyped. Never touched the field. Never touched the field, right? Bad legs, right? I thought he was going to be the next Frank Gore. Thought he was going to be the next Frank Gore. Bad legs. Frank Gore, bad legs. Get him in here. This guy was faster than Frank, stronger than Frank. I mean, just bit everything that you wanted, right? Teams do that. And I think that we tend to harp on it a lot more because we have the microscope, we got the magnifying. After we draft these guys, then we start digging. Oh, man, this guy was injured 2 out of his 4 years in college. Oh, man, this guy had, they even did it with Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa was a sure thing, and they talked about that core injury. All of a sudden, Niner fans are harping on the core injury from the hands down number 1 pick in the draft. Had the Cardinals not had Cliff Kingsbury, who was in love with Kyler Murray. He was the overall consensus for the number 1 pick, and we still scrutinized it and said we got an injured guy. There was some of us, not a lot of us. I'll be in a small percentage of the population of the 49ers fan base, but we still scrutinized it. It's never going to change. Every player is going to be coming with injury. Football is the only sport where you can expect injuries all the time. So I don't think that we should count that against the Niners. Now, that does not mean we haven't made some questionable picks. Why is Danny Gray here? Now, I thought Danny Gray was here because they thought Trey Lance had a big arm. We want to get a downfield weapon for him in case Trey Lance was the guy. Lance isn't here, but Danny Gray still is. It's questionable. Why what's going on? Now y'all want to hide him on the IR and stuff like that and everything. You got to put this kid on the field and see what you got, or cut bait and give the roster spot to somebody else. Yeah. That's one thing that I think that the Niners have to do, and they have to do that. You mentioned Kalia Davis. That was an excellent example of that as well. I remember when we went out, the offensive line has been so questionable. We had what was my man's name? Donovan West in here. We had there was another center that we had. I can't remember. Same year. Neither one of those guys ever touched the field. Neither one of them. I think one of them made the practice squad for a couple of days and then signed with like the UFL or something like that. Like it's XFL, whatever it was. Gone. Yeah, gone.
Yeah, it was XFL at the time because now it's the UFL because they combined the USFL and the XFL.
There you go. Yeah, so it's like the offensive line is still a big question mark. We just talked about Spencer Burford missing the best player on defense in the biggest game of the year. The biggest play of the year.
And low-key on that play, I'll say this. It's a 50-50 for me on whether that was his fault or not. You kept rotating that young man in and out, and you expected him to know what the fuck he was supposed to be doing. Low-key, I don't care what nobody says. I mean, all right, you know what? I'll give it a 95-5. 95, that's Spencer Burford's fault. 5% is not. The reason I say 95, who the fuck doesn't block the best defensive tackle on the goddamn field? Who doesn't do that? That's like me being an offensive lineman and I see AD on the other side and I leave him unblocked. I'm a dummy for that. AD is going to murder my quarterback. Why would I allow my quarterback to have that deal? Because if Spencer Burford at least just makes that block, that's a touchdown to Juwan Jennings. Y'all saw where the ball was going. Brock only overthrew it because he couldn't get himself set. So here's my thing. That's another thing that I will say against Kyle. He didn't care about his offensive line too much. Mind you, going to get Trent Williams and trading all those picks was great. We loved it. I don't know how the fuck he pulled it off because him and Dan Snyder don't like each other at all. And Dan Snyder don't like his daddy either. But at the end of the day, Trade happened. I don't know. I think that was just more a situation of them trying to do what's best for Trent and themselves. And knowing and understanding you're not going to get anywhere. Like it's the end of the road. He does not want to play for you anymore. And that's cool. But the rest of the offensive line, we didn't know who Aaron Banks was until Laken Tomlinson left. We drafted Spencer Burford, put him in, then we start rotating him in and out with Daniel Brunskill. Then Brunskill left. We let Burford play, and then we brought in Feliciano. That's another thing that I have against Kyle. Why are you always helping out the fucking homie? Stop bringing in guys you know. Not everybody you know is going to be a perfect fit for the offense, sir. Every now and then, you're going to have to invest in your offensive line. Everyone says now that he's finally found his quarterback. Great. If you have, do what you need to do to protect that young man. The longer Purdy has in the pocket, the worse it is for defense. Any cornerback in the league will tell you straight up, it's hard to cover a guy for more than about 5 to 6 seconds. After a while, you're going to be like, okay, what the fuck is this guy doing? And first of all, why does he have this much time to try to get open? You want your defensive line, your linebackers, even your blitzer. You want those guys there in 3 seconds or less. And you're hoping it's less. Now, mind you, don't get me wrong. Thank you so much, Aaron Donald, for retiring. I really appreciate that shit. Glad I don't have to deal with your ass in my division no fucking more. Either way, Daniel Brunskill will always be your daddy, and I will always remember you looking like a bitch-made nigga sitting up there in the press game conference talking about who. You know who the fuck Debo was. He ran over your whole goddamn team. Don't act like you didn't see that shit. You was in your feelings, and you too big of a man, literally, to be in your feelings. Pause. But those are just some things that I have against him, man. I don't understand it. Why won't you invest in your offensive line? Why did you refuse in the first round of the draft outside of Mike McGlinchey to draft an offensive lineman? Everybody else has been a defensive lineman, and the only other person that was there was a fucking quarterback that you didn't want. So why do you not invest in your offensive line? Why do you always go out and get your Tom Comptons, your John Felicianos, all these journeyman motherfuckers when you could draft some real talent and tell Chris Forrester, get this motherfucker together? If I can bring in a bunch of ragtag defensive linemen and Chris Casseur keeps getting motherfuckers paid every year, why aren't you doing that? What's your problem? Do I need to hire someone else? Because if I do, I'll go get him.
My rebuttal to that is this. Well, I agree with a lot of what you're saying here, and I think the Niners have invested way too much in the defensive line. Chris Forrester is making gourmet meals with stuff out of his lawn.
Yep.
And I'm not talking, I didn't say out the garden. You can get some good shit out of a garden. He's going out in his front lawn, getting grass, getting weeds, and is asked to perform at a crazy level. The offensive line is so important to the success of a team. The quarterback depends on the offensive line. The running back depends on the offensive line. The wide receivers depend on the quarterback, who depends on, you guessed it, the offensive line. However, if you look at a first-round pick for the 49ers, other than Brandon Ayuk and Trey Lance, it's a defensive lineman. You look at the highest paid free agent that they get every year, it's a defensive lineman. And you have the highest paid position coach in Chris Kosaric. If he's paid that much, he's supposed to be able to get more from less. Why aren't you giving Chris Forrester that same stuff? Give Chris Forrester a first-round pick, and not a guy that was a left tackle that you're moving to the right side. No, give him a real right tackle to play right tackle. Give him a guard to play guard.
Yep.
So I'm with you on that part. But is that scouting? Who's doing the draft? Who's pulling the trigger in the draft room? I think a lot of the beefs that you're talking about are over Kyle Shanahan's head. And that is my closing argument. I'm going to rest my case right
there. Well, look, people, we have been at this for an hour and a half. I want to thank any and everybody from tuning in with us. I know a good chunk of y'all are from Nothing But Niners. So any of y'all that have seen me here, I really appreciate y'all tuning in and listening to me. You know what I'm saying, have a nice little back and forth debate with my good friend Mike. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, please like and subscribe. I appreciate anybody who does follow. I do not sit here and hate on Kyle Shanahan on a consistent basis like some people think that I do. I just expect greatness from my head coach, and that's what I want from him. I've always said I will get off Kyle's ass when he brings me a Super Bowl. I will leave him alone if he could just give me one. He has not been able to deliver for a variety of different reasons. But I will say this is my closing argument. I don't want Kyle to become Andy Reid in Philly. I don't want that. I want Kyle to get himself a Super Bowl. I want him to see what it feels like. Really quick before we get out of here, Mike, I want to get your thoughts on this. A lot of people were saying that we should go ahead and bring in Bill Belichick as our defensive coordinator. I told everybody that was a dumb idea. And you know why I said it was a dumb idea? Because if Kyle gets to a Super Bowl and blows another one, whose name are they going to call? They're going to call Bill. Bill has one thing. This is just like the debate between who's the GOAT, LeBron or MJ. Let me explain something to you. I go with MJ because MJ, number one, is my favorite player of all time. And at the same time, that man is 6-0 in his conference finals, and he would have been 8-0 had he not retired. But the one thing that I say that MJ has that LeBron didn't have and doesn't have, killer instinct. You have to want to choke the life out of your opponent. You have to have that Mamba mentality. And that's the key. If you don't have that, why are you doing what you're doing? So if you bring Bill in here, you're only opening the door for you to kick yourself in the ass because these fans are going to say that man has won 6, you have won 0. We need him at the helm because at least he knows how to finish, and you don't. What say you to that?
I thought bringing Bill Belichick in here was a good idea based off of everything that you actually just said. He's got the experience. Maybe he could be the guy dropping some knowledge in Kyle's ear. Hey, you probably should be a little bit more aggressive here. Tom Brady was not ever going to look at a clock. Hey, we got 43 seconds in the rest of this half, and we got 2 timeouts. We could eat this up. We practiced a 2-minute drill, and a successful 2-minute drill can get you down the field in 1 minute. Tom Brady is never looking at 43 seconds and 2 timeouts and saying we should just go into halftime.
No,
that's never the mindset. That's never the mindset. So I thought bringing Bill in here would be perfect for Kyle. Learn from this guy. Learn from him. Now, if we get to the Super Bowl and end up winning with him here, with Belichick here, then it's like, okay, what'd you learn? Who'd you learn it from? Who was the real reason we did it? That could have created a little bit of a kerfuffle. That could have been all of a sudden like, oh boy, what's going to happen? Was it Kyle? Was it Bill? We only won because of Bill. I'd rather deal with those issues than have we 0-3.
Yeah.
Or well, 0-2 with Kyle, but you know what I'm saying? 0-3 is the franchise since the last Super Bowl win. I'd rather have those conversations because then I can say, I don't care. We won. Y'all want to argue about who's the credit? Credit everybody for that. I don't care. Right. I'd rather have those arguments than the whose fault is it we lost. I'd rather have it the other way around.
Well, hey, everybody, that has been the show. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Hopefully y'all took away some good things from this debate, whether it be, Mike's side, my side, or hopefully it helped you understand all encompassing of what Kyle has done since he's been here. Once again, I don't want Kyle to lose. I'd love him to bring us a Super Bowl. And I think that Brock Purdy is the guy to finish the job for us. Mike, I appreciate you coming in and hanging out with your boy. Thank you so much for simultaneously streaming this on your platform. Everybody out there, continue to subscribe to Nothing But Niners. And anybody that hasn't subscribed to me, please do. I'm always here. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. And we out this joint.
Peace.